Hey guys, my name is James and myself and Lupe recently returned from Riga, Latvia, and we wanted to share with you our favourite places and experiences. Riga, the capital of Latvia and the biggest city in the Baltic states, is a gem to explore. It's a city that surprises and is far from the mass tourism destinations, with an old town that may have well been out of a fairy tale. It has a vibrant atmosphere with colourful and picturesque streets. Riga is also a city with a hard and troubled past. It's a city that was founded by German merchants around the 13th century and since then has lived under German, Polish, Swedish, Russian, Nazi and Soviet rule. However, Riga is a city that is now a resurging, thriving capital. So why not join us as we explore the streets of this fascinating city, as we take you through its medieval buildings, its Art Nouveau architecture, its vibrant nightlife, and we will also show the vestiges of Latvia's Soviet past, among many other things which Riga has to offer. We start in the old town, which is known as Riga in Latvian. Riga is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and most people should probably start their visit here. This is an area where Riga was first founded, and it's still the heart of the city. Located in the east bank of the river Daugava, it's a maze of beautiful streets, squares and alleys, dotted with wonderfully preserved historic buildings. One of those squares is the Town Hall Square, Ratslakamuns in Latvian. I really hope I got that right. Many of the buildings around it had to be reconstructed after World War II, but it's not any less beautiful because of that. Here you can find one of Riga's landmarks, the House of the Blackheads. It is a very cool building, and it was originally built as a venue for the Brotherhood of Single Men back in the 14th century. The original building was bombed by the Germans during World War II, so most of what we see today is reconstructed. Just beside the square we can find the statue of Roland, and not far away the Museum of Occupation. This is meant to be a really interesting place, and we would have loved to have included it in the video, but unfortunately it was closed for building works when we were there. So now we're going to go all the way up to there. Very close to the Town Hall Square we have St. Peter's Church. This building is one of the oldest in Riga. It's beautiful, and we were there when there was also a very cool art exhibition inside, but the best part of it is to get up to the top of its 72-metre height wooden tower. And just before we go any further, if you guys could take the time just to subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up, we'd really appreciate that because it does very good things for the algorithm and our channel. Right outside the church, there's a statue of the musicians of Bremen. What are they doing in Riga, you might ask? Well, it was a gift from Bremen to celebrate Latvia's independence after the fall of the Soviet Union with a very symbolic meaning. The musicians look over a crack in the wall, looking at the outside world from the Iron Curtain. After St. Peter's Church, we continue to Riga Cathedral in Dome Square. Together they are the city's most iconic churches. Although St. Peter's is higher, the cathedral is the biggest medieval church of all in the Baltic states. The square around it has a beautiful atmosphere, and it's very cool to walk around these streets and up to nearby Nouveau Square, possibly the most beautiful square in the entire city. Next to it, you can also visit the House of the Black Cats, one of Riga's most iconic Art Nouveau buildings, but definitely not the most impressive. Its black cats are a symbol of the city, and there are many legends about what they exactly mean. Apparently, they are looking upon the neighbouring building with a real evil in their eyes, which was the headquarters of the Great Guild Riga. The Great Guild of Riga had rejected membership to the merchant who built the house, so that's fair enough, I suppose. From here we head to the Three Brothers. The first of these picturesque houses dates back to around 1490, which makes it over 500 years old. It's the oldest residential complex in the city, although no one lives here anymore. And thankfully that's the case, because normally it's full of tourists like us taking pictures. Instead, today they host the Museum of Architecture and the Heritage Office. We didn't enter into the museum, but to visit the Three Brothers is definitely a must-do in Riga. So, our first full day is coming to an end in Riga, and we are just entering, as you can see behind us, the Swedish Arch. So after walking through Chruch Street, we went through the Swedish Gate, not Arch, my mistake. It's really one of the coolest little lanes around. It runs along the inside portion of the old city walls, and it takes you straight to the only surviving medieval entrance gate into the city, the Swedish Gate. The story goes that a young girl from the city fell in love with a Swedish soldier, and because their love was forbidden, they were both punished and executed. Now, the story can vary, but apparently some people say they can hear the girl's voice as they pass through the walls. Now, we didn't hear anything, but I don't doubt it. Now we're going to go home, maybe rest for a bit, get some food, and head out and explore more of the town at night. Exactly, some balsam. The international, or the national drink here in Riga, in Latvia. This brings us to the Bastej Khans Park, a very peaceful and quiet park where the Rigan people like to relax. It's right next to the old town, with the channel running through the middle of it, and the monument that is probably the most significant and important in Latvia, the Freedom Monument. It was built in the 1930s to commemorate Latvian independence, and it was funded entirely with donations from the residents of Riga. They built it in the same place where the statue of the Russian Tsar Peter the Great once stood, and it's 42 meters high. After the Soviet occupation, Nazi occupation, and the Soviet occupation again, Latvia lost its newly gained independence, and it didn't get it back until the fall of the Soviet Union, but the Freedom Monument remained there. So now you can see we're just outside the Monument of Freedom and Independence for Latvia, there behind us. It's a very cool monument. On top there are 3 stars that represent the freedom of Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, I believe. Now we are going to continue up through Freedom Boulevard, Riga's central street. Here we can find the Nativity Cathedral. It's the largest Orthodox cathedral in the Baltic states, and it's a beautiful place to visit. It was used as a planetarium during the Soviet era, and now it's been used as a church again. You can enter for free, but mind the dress code. Shorts are not allowed and women are asked to cover their heads. If it's winter, a beanie hat would probably do here. We would show you images of the interior, but you can't take pictures or videos inside. When we were there, they were performing a ceremony, which was quite an interesting experience, and it was so cool to be there. With its golden dome standing above the trees, it's a hard building to miss, and it is certainly worth a visit when you are in Riga. So we are on our way to the KGB Museum. It's a very quiet day at the moment, not many people around. It's very, very cold, as you can see from our jackets, scarves and gloves and hats. So yes, here we go. We are now going to continue walking through Brīvības Bulvaris until we reach number 61, the Corner House. On the outside, the Corner House is an elegant Art Nouveau building from the first decade of the 20th century. It was originally built as an apartment building, and it was once one of the most desirable addresses in Riga, but during the Soviet occupation it became the headquarters of the Committee of the State Security, better known as the KGB. The KGB converted the building to house its own offices and dozens of prison cells where those who were considered as opponents to the regime were detained, interrogated, tortured, deported or executed. It was said that the Corner House was the only building in Riga which had views to Siberia. Today the former KGB headquarters is a museum, and you can do a guided tour here for about €10. It is an impactful, grim but important visit. If you want to know more about the corner house, check out our next video dedicated to it here. We will tell you more about the history of the building and walk you through the rooms and corridors. But for now we're going to leave the corner house and head for Alberta Ila, or Albert Street. Now Albert Street is very famous for its Art Nouveau buildings, and it's part of the reason why Riga is the city with more architecture of this style in all of Europe. And apparently 1/3 of the buildings in the centre are Art Nouveau style. But it's in particular this street where we can see the bigger concentration of them. Some of them are really atypical and different, and they will definitely catch your attention, even if you're not into the architecture. There is also a museum nearby dedicated to Art Nouveau architecture. So once you finish your tour around this stunning street, it could be a really cool thing to check it out before moving on to the next place. And for the next location, we are going to cross the river Daugava into the other side of the city. If you like the Nativity Cathedral, you will love this one too, the Orthodox Church of the Holy Trinity. Now yes, it is far smaller and it doesn't get a lot of tourists because it's a little bit far from the main attractions of the city, but we think it's definitely worth a visit as it really stands out with the colourful towers and domes. It was built in the 17th century Russian Baroque style, and like the Nativity Cathedral, you can visit it on the inside, but you can't really take pictures and you definitely have to mind the dress code. Being a less touristy place, we found it a little more strict. After the colourful Holy Trinity, we went to Victory Park. We are sure it's very green and nice with better weather, but the day we were there it was actually quite foggy, grey and gloomy. It didn't really matter though, because it actually added a lot to the atmosphere once we went in to visit the site. Now the reason why you would go here is to see the monument to the liberators of Soviet Latvia and Riga from the German fascist invaders. That's the official name, but unofficially it's simply called the Victory Memorial, thankfully, which is much less of a mouthful.
So we are here standing at the Monument of Victory. This monument was erected in the Soviet Union times to commemorate the victory of the Soviets against Nazi Germany. So it's quite a controversial monument here in Latvia because it is commemorating the victory over the Nazis, but at the same time is commemorating the Soviet Union, which is not necessarily a good thing for a big part of the population. But I have to say it's quite impressive. It's certainly massive and it's worth a visit anyways.
The Victory Memorial is kind of abandoned, it's not really well preserved, and it may even be that by the time you watch this video it doesn't even exist anymore, as apparently it has been decided that it will be dismantled in the future. Some people even hate it, that many people have been calling for it to be demolished for a long time, and apparently some have even tried to do it on their own already. But for other people, mainly the Russian-speaking population of Latvia, it's a symbol of their hard-won victory in the Second World War, something which they are very proud of. If there is controversy still around this monument, it is nonetheless still a really interesting place to see. Standing 79 metres high, it features 4 massive sculptures, one representing 3 soldiers and one representing the motherland. It will definitely impress you. Now it's time to go back to the city centre, but before crossing the bridge again, it's worth making a stop in the National Library. Now, it's quite an unusual building, one of those that you either hate or you love, but you're definitely going to see it at some point or the other because it's just on the river shore facing the old town and it really dominates the skyline. It's really cool. The building is really cool on the inside too, and there are some interesting expositions there. The National Library itself was founded on the 29th of August 1919, which was 1 year after independence. The library's holdings today encompass more than 5 million titles, including about 18,000 manuscripts from the 14th century up until modern times. But the main reason why you'd want to enter here is because of the viewpoint at the very top. Riga is not short of viewpoints, and we are sure this one is nice too, but as you can see, unfortunately it was very foggy when we were up here, so we can't say much about the view. As you can see now, we're on top of the library in Riga, and look at those for amazing views. Fog and mist everywhere. We love it. Back in the east side of the river and just next to the old town, it's Riga Central Market. It is always nice to see a city's market, but this is particularly cool for two reasons. Number one, it is the largest covered market in Europe, and two, it was not always a market. The 5 pavilions that are now full of all sorts of food and stalls and people were originally 5 hangars for German Zeppelins. The Zeppelins, of course, are not there anymore, but a walk around the market will immerse yourself in the local life and show a lot about Latvian food and specialties. Each hangar specialises in one type of product, and there is even more stalls outside the building, so there's a lot to buy and taste before we continue our tour through Riga. We've got some cucumbers, some spiced ones, some garlic ones, and yeah, there they are there. Beautiful, beautiful, real Latvian food. We like that. So we're in the market now. We've just been to the meat market. There was like a sweet dessert market and also a clothes market. It's quite a selection and variety, and I have to say it's one of the biggest ones I've ever seen, and it's quite cool. So we're doing some more exploration now, and let's see where it takes us. Our next stop is only 5 minutes walk away from the bustling area of the market in a much more quiet part of Riga. There is a lot of 19th century warehouses here, as it was the old industrial quarter. And between them we can find the Riga Ghetto and Latvian Holocaust Museum. It's only a small museum and it's mostly outdoors, which can be a problem if you are visiting in the winter, but it's free and full of information that will give you some insight into the horrific period of Latvian and European history. The ghetto itself was actually located nearby, but not in the actual place where the museum is today. But there is a replica of the ghetto house, what it would have looked like at the time, so it's well worth a visit. The Latvian Academy of Sciences was an unforgiving building in the skyline. The observation deck gave us a spectacular viewpoint of the city, which was breathtaking. But before we go up, it's well worth to admire the building from the outside. Built in the 50s, it's probably the most impressive example of Soviet architecture in Riga. It's actually really similar to the other Soviet buildings of the time in Moscow or Warsaw, so it's not precisely a unique skyscraper, but you should definitely visit if you're in Riga. The top of the Palace of Sciences in Riga, and I have to say it's quite nice. Look at that, all the way around. Yeah, so we're up quite high up here now at the moment.
You can see the old town, the St. Peter's Church, the bridge, the river Daugava. It's really beautiful.
As we made our way downstairs, we came across a really cool exhibition by the unique painter Karin Parayan. It was only there for the month of March, but I'm sure they hold really interesting exhibitions all the time here, so it's perfect for it. All of this and much more is waiting to be discovered in the capital of Latvia. It's a really beautiful city which is still free of mass tourism. It has a wonderful local cuisine, a vibrant culture and beautiful streets to walk around and get lost in. And we are only scratching the surface here. So that's it from us for now. We really hope you liked the video, and if you did find it useful, please do like and subscribe. Let us know where your favourite site is in the comments below. Thank you for watching.